Welcome to the Time Has Come podcast. My name is Graham Wardle, and today I am honored to have Mandy Morris on the show. Mandy is an entrepreneur, she's a philanthropist, and she's a manifestation expert. Now, I know for some of you, the concept of manifestation might be new or foreign, or maybe even a little delusional for some of you. But this isn't about sitting on the couch and expecting a Ferrari to show up in your driveway. The real work begins on the inside. And Mandy's latest book, The 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting, goes into great detail on exactly how to create the life of your dreams. This is one of my favorite interviews to date, so I hope you enjoy it. And specifically, Mandy's answer to my magic painting question really blew me out of the water. So let's get into it. The time has come for us to welcome Mandy Morris to the podcast. Welcome, Mandy, to the Time Has Come podcast. Thank you for being with me here today. How are you feeling?
I'm so good, and I'm really excited about this.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to have you here. I know you were just out on your cattle drive? You're moving some cows around. What was happening?
Well, I was trying to get to the store, and I
Okay.
live in this tiny town, but we live right up this beautiful hill, and so they will take hundreds of cattle, and there's like babies and mamas, and they're all going nuts, and they're pooping everywhere. And then, of course, like I'm trying to corral them with my car so that I can get, around. And so it's this big old thing, but the kids love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Mandy. So you have manifested quite the life for yourself now, but it wasn't always this way. So in your latest book, The 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting, you talk about in chapter 1, from mayhem to magic. And you talk about specifically a moment in your past where it was like a mayhem. It was a nightmare.
Mhm.
And you were in the bathroom mirror and you made yourself a promise. So can you take us back to that moment and what you said to yourself and why that was such a pivotal moment for you?
Yeah. So it was unfortunately quite a night. I had been in an abusive relationship, and he was really hurting. And he was more of someone who would express it outwardly. And I was someone, when I was hurting, I would turn it inwardly. So we were a perfect match in the worst way.
Mm.
And he had done something, and I had decided that this was going to be enough. And so I asked him to leave. And I dropped to my knees, and it literally happened like this, Graham. It was so theatrical, like a movie, but it was really this way. And I dropped to my knees, and I was sitting there alone in my tiny little apartment, and I was just crying. And I was like, what is this? And then I don't know why, I just felt like I wanted to go to the bathroom and look in my eyes and be like, where are you? Like,
Mm.
is there anybody there I can recognize? How could you let yourself be treated this way or be in this situation and all this stuff? And for some reason, I promised myself to humanity. I don't think I loved myself enough to say, okay,
Mm.
Mandy, we're doing this for us, right?
Mm.
And so instead it was, I know I'm supposed to be here for something far greater than this. And, I asked my higher power, like, can you show me the way? Humanity, I promise I will show up. I don't need anything. I don't need a darn thing. Just bring me peace and show me that I'm doing what I'm here to do. And my life turned upside down.
What was the next moment for you? Did it all happen at once, or was it like a slow step-by-step process?
Phew, it was quick. It was
It
real
was very
quick. I
quick.
think,
Okay.
yes. I think it took about 2 weeks. Not that everything was perfect after
Yeah,
that
yeah,
by
yeah.
any means. The turmoil began, if anything, but it took about 2 weeks for the fullness of that relationship, the job that I was working at, even the state that I was living in, all of it, everything was just completely removed, stripped away. And that was one of the things, that I had said in essence was, take everything away from me that doesn't belong and bring me everything that I need to fulfill this, this
Mm.
promise that I'm making to humanity. And within that 2 week time frame, my now husband, who became my best friend, showed up. My purpose work began to evolve and show itself. I didn't know. I was like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to join the Peace Corps, because at least then I'll still be
Oh,
doing,
really?
something.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was not ready to just be, I mean, I totally quit my job and had no money and everything, but I was like, I don't know. Like, what if this doesn't work out? What if I can't serve people in this way of, I thought maybe I'll be a coach, because I used to,
Mm.
therapy, and that was my world. And that wasn't very fulfilling for me. But I was like, I'll join the Peace Corps if it doesn't work out. But everything just completely changed so very
Mm.
quickly.
So where does Mandy's faith come from? Because you dropped to your knees and you called out on a higher power. Were you always sort of spiritual in your younger years, or where does that come from for you?
Yes. I don't know why. I've heard some people say like they felt disconnected from God. or, their
Mhm.
perception of God or source. And I say God, but I'm talking about source, universe. I don't think it's a guy in the sky, throwing down lightning bolts or anything like that. It's just an energy that I feel, good with. And since I was a kid, I would always, gosh, I was 5 years old and my mom still has some of them. I would like write little notes to God and then I'd put them outside thinking that they would like fly up to heaven and then he would read them. I'd be walking home from friends' houses and I'd be like, hey, it's Mandy Morris at 236. I'd be like, he doesn't know my address. I thought it was a he at the time as well. So I just always had this really close relationship. It was the one thing that I could always lean on. And I think that's probably one of the few reasons that I stayed
Mm,
intact as a person through my trauma and through my dysfunction
mm,
was that I talk to God every night.
mm. And is that through prayer or what? How do you talk to God? Is it meditation?
Yeah, well, now of course it's more meditation, and there's a completely different understanding of what God feels like to me now. It's a connectedness
Mm.
to myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was journaling when I was a kid, and then that's how journaling really started for me. I started writing to God, and now I just journal everything all the time since I was 5, basically.
Yeah, journaling. I love journaling. It's something that when I was going through hard times when I was younger, my mom said to me, "Here's a journal. Like write stuff down." And I was like, "For what purpose? Like why?" But it's like magic. Like as soon as you put it out of your head on paper, it's like, oh, like I feel better in some way. You don't have
It
to show anybody, but
Yeah, I remember I read this a couple years back that a lot of addicts will also use journaling because it helps slow down their thoughts. And I was like, well,
hmm
I come from addicts. That would have really helped my dad. But regardless, I'm like, it slows down my thoughts too in that sense. It takes all this chaos that sits in our minds and then we can pour it out. And I tell my oldest son, he's into journaling now, but originally I was like, don't just talk about it, go write it out. Like, vent,
hmm
talk about things. What do you want to create? What's it going to look like? So that he has that tool as well. Because I know some people don't like journaling, but it is such a powerful, powerful tool.
Yeah, it's a great tool. You mentioned your father, and in the beginning of the book also, you talked about the scare that you had with your dad and how that developed some beliefs in you, some false beliefs. So, can you talk about false beliefs, the power that they have over our lives, and how do you shake free from them? How do you break free from those things from our past or from trauma or from other people that have kind of put that on top of you?
Yeah, I think, well, I could answer this a million ways. The first thing I want to say is like questioning it. Is it even true? Like, why do we think the way we think? Why do certain areas of our life not look the way that we want them to look? And what sits at the embedded thought of that? And so, going back to
Mm-hmm.
my father, when he was, unfortunately, he had multiple suicide attempts, but he had never called me during them until that time. And so, after he swallowed that bottle, and he called me. Of course, he's not very coherent because the drugs are taking effect as well. And he was a drug addict, anyway. But this was an intention to leave the
Mm.
planet. And I thought, I am so disposable. And he was at the time, I had this like pie in the sky perception.
That was your belief that you said I'm so disposable because he. So that was the meaning that you put on that event.
Yes, like
Yeah.
if someone who was supposed to be there for me, my father, who was never, I love him very much. He passed away in 2020. I love him very much, but he was never there for me. But I
Mm.
perceived that he was, up until that point, and I was like, if he doesn't want to be on the planet for me, what does that say? Like how unimportant am I and my sister, and how could this be? And so it really flipped a lot of perceptions. By all means, I had many more traumas than that, but that one was one that really stuck out, and I write about in the book where when somebody wants to leave the planet, you feel like, at 13 years old, I couldn't understand what I can understand now about suicide and why I'm so passionate about helping people through that now.
Mhm.
But it was all about me. Why? How could he do that? And I actually had the journal from that day. I still have it. And
Oh
it
wow.
was, yeah, I reverse engineered my whole life through this. And it was, how could my big, strong dad not even want to live? And he was in a different state, and I was like, and I can't even see him, I can't help him, there's no one there to stop him. What if he does this again? I was, reading
Mhm.
my own thoughts in those moments. And a part of it was not, of course I couldn't use the word disposable per se, but that was what I was saying in essence.
Mhm. Now, when you went from that place to you say questioning those things, so how do you take that false belief of like because it's ingrained. You probably lived with that for a while, right? Of like I'm not valuable because my father was just gonna like leave
Yes, and it
without me.
sprouted legs. Yeah, so
Say again.
it sprouted legs. So
Yeah.
that perception, that root of this is what I feel, it starts showing up in relationships in different areas, in my classwork, in all kinds of things. Eventually, depending on the trauma, you shut down a bit. And so it took some time before I would even consider or accept the idea that I could change the way that I thought, because from 13 on to about 24, 25, it was all of that time in between, and prior to that as well, where trauma after trauma, dysfunction, I began to choose dysfunction. I was seeing lots of
Mm-hmm.
my, lots of things. And so when I hit about 24, 25, I was like, this cannot be the only way to think. There are people who have beautiful lives. Maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe I'm doomed. But I noticed that the way I talk to myself and the way I perceive life is very different than the way these people talk and the way that they perceive life. And so I started bridging the gap, thinking, this is something that can change. And so I went into the world of psychology for one of my degrees, thinking that'll be the solution. No, not at all. You get all this information in your head and you can't drop it into your heart, then it doesn't do anything. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
great, but I couldn't absorb anything. And so it wasn't until I hit that moment of, this is my do or die. And I try to get people before they hit their basement, because it's rock bottom is not it's a great place, but it's not a great place to rebuild your life depending on how long it takes you to get there. Luckily I hit it at a young enough age, but hitting that point and going, I'm going to start challenging all of these beliefs. Is it true? Does it have to be true moving forward? And if not, even in a small part of me, what could the new truth be? And what would that look like? What feels authentic to me? And I just began to challenge everything that I perceived about reality and myself and life and people. And I
Yeah.
realized that pretty much everything I thought was BS. It was just me trying to protect myself from the past.
Mm. So so this was all journaling too, right? You were doing all this in a journal? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
still journal to this day.
So there's a big theme, there's a whole chapter dedicated to self-love in your book. And I'm assuming that also this process of questioning your false beliefs has to start with the foundation of self-love, because if you don't love yourself enough, you're not going to really, you got to start with that love first to then question and be like, I want something better, correct?
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely. And
yeah,
and I'm careful about how I say this, because I think that society has kind of programmed us to perceive that love is something a little bit funky, or that it's not
okay.
what it really is. And so I like changing the conversation around it. But I had noticed this when I was doing psychosomatic work clinically. And this psychiatric nurse came in and she's like, she was shadowing me and trying to learn what I was doing, because I didn't have my methodology, didn't have my coaches and therapists yet, none of that stuff. I was just doing this one-on-one with patients. And she's like, what is it? It's this feeling that you give. And I was like, I don't know. And I sat there and I thought about it when she would say, this is what's happening. And I was like, if I had to call it something, it's love. It's unconditional love. I see them as so whole. And I have this, I always have since I was a child, I have this deep, deep love for people. I'm a total server, helper. Like I'm wired that way. Otherwise, I just feel like I'm dying if I'm not helping. And
Mm.
so seeing that wholeness in people and giving them that through, I call it the gift of embodiment, but giving them that energy, that love, that non-judgment, that safe open space. And then, a lot of scientists will call it, or psychologists as well, coherence. I didn't know that it was a thing already, but it's this incredible space that you share with someone that allows for their subconscious to just, the walls to fall and to heal and to understand themselves. And so I wrote that whole chapter about self-love/love, because I really wanted people to remember that when you are growing, when you are healing, when you are trying to change your life, there's so much that comes with that. And sometimes it's guilt and shame and judgment, or I should be doing it faster, or this person's ahead, or all of this noise. And when you lean back into love and you rest when you need to, and you reflect when you need to, and you grant yourself grace the way that I perceive, God can, and that many humans do for each other, and that I love to do for others, it creates rapid
Yeah.
healing and rapid understanding. And I mean, in real time, you can see people's brains shift so drastically when they're in that space. So that was why I was like, I know that some people are going to be like, oh, really? We're talking about love, Mandy? You're so sciencey. But I was like, it is the lubricant of all that information. It really is.
Yeah, I struggled with that at first, when many people over the course of my life has sort of shared that with me. Graham, you need some more self-love. You got to work on this self-love. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. I was like, that's the stupidest thing ever.
Yes. You're like,
But
no.
I now, yeah, but I get it. It's like, it is, you're right. It's the lubricant. It's the foundation. It's the essence of all that is. So it's like, to start from that place is the starting place of all creation, of all possibilities. So you have to start from that place of self-love. So
Yeah.
that's great, Mandy. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. I also wanted to talk about the process of manifesting. Your 8 secrets to powerful manifesting. When you manifest, do you have any fun manifestation stories? I love the stories of people saying, I really wanted to create somebody. I have one. When the first time I heard about this, I said I wanted somebody to walk up to me and give me $10. And I had this really fun experience, and I love sharing that story, but I want to hear from you. Do you have any fun manifesting stories that you can share with
Oh my
people?
gosh, so many, so many.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you do.
I'm like, which one would be fun to say right now? So here's one, and this ties into a process that I have kind of created called Set It and Forget It Manifesting. Because I'm such a
Okay.
journaler, it's this whole process of how you write it down, da 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 da. So I had noticed this. This was years ago. This was, let's see, it was November 11, 2017. Of course, I know because it was in my journal. So 11/11/17. I always write, the date, sometime the time as well.
Yeah.
And I'd written in there, I was living in Dallas with my, husband, and we weren't married yet. And I wrote down a couple different things. And I had kind of written out my rules of my manifesting. And one of the chapters, of course, is how do we rewrite the rules? And so I had said quite a few things. I had a hefty list. I said, I don't want to have children in Dallas. We had my bonus son, of course, but I didn't want to bear children in Dallas. I didn't want to have children until I was married. And we were engaged, but in no rush, to get married. And then I also said, and I just wrote this randomly. I said, our new baby and my son, my oldest son, my bonus son, and Oliver, my now husband, and we're all going to move to Laguna Beach this summer. And I just completely forgot about it. And so, fast forward, we're sitting there. We went to Laguna Beach just to enjoy, travel a little bit during the summer. I think it was in like May or June. And we had these crazy synchronicities and signs. So, of course, the manifestation process in full swing and crazy things are happening. And I'm like, okay, we're in a really high frequency. Let's stamp this in. I think we're actually going to move here, which at the time, there was so many reasons why that was just completely unfeasible. And we were there in 2 weeks. And we moved, yeah, and I'm leaving a ton out, I swear, but
Yeah.
we were there in 2 weeks. And we ended up getting married in our home in Laguna Beach on the water. And the day after the wedding, I conceived our baby boy.
Whoa!
It was to the T. It was like the universe was like, hurry up and get married. We have this soul that wants to come in. Let's get you to the beach. Let's do this. So all of my beautiful rules were met, and the manifestation was incredible.
That's awesome, Mandy. That's awesome. So there's so much in the book. I know for everybody watching and listening, it's called The 8 Secrets of Powerful Manifesting by Mandy Morris. And you can pick it up on Amazon and on your website and all bookstore where books are sold.
Anywhere.
Yeah. So one of the things that you touched on, and I also went to your 2-day weekend course, which I found fantastic, and I got a lot out of that too. So thank you, Mandy, for that. One of the things that you talk about is an additional sort of like when you're manifesting, you're writing these things down. You say, "Is this for the?" I think the way you phrased it, "Is this for the benefit of all?"
The highest good of all.
The highest good of all. Yeah. So can you talk a bit about that and why that's important to you to include in your manifestations?
So this is kind of my my sneak in with everybody of like, I personally want this for everyone, because manifestation is not like I'm a good enough person to manifest. Manifesting is happening all the time. It's an unconscious conversation we're having with the matter and the energy around us, right? And so we see really interesting people on the planet make lots of money or have good things happen to them. And you're like, I'm a good person. Why isn't it happening to me? Because the universe is a Xerox. It's not about being good or bad. But what I have noticed is that when someone manifests the highest good of all, and what that means is you're taking all of existence into account. You care for and understand that you are deeply connected to everyone and everything. Like cells in a body, you are just one cell. And you could be the healthiest cell, but the body will still deteriorate if everything else around you is not operating properly. Mm-hmm. And so I always say, even if I want something that is primarily for me, that one, I will bless everyone that I possibly can with it when I receive it, and only if it is in the highest good of all, and I have taken all of existence into account. If it is meant for me, then I welcome it in, and if not, I surrender, and I am okay with not receiving it.
Now, to me, that's like super important, right? Because that to me is the sustainable manifestation. Because if you're manifesting and it's not in the greatest good, the highest good for all, then it's not sustainable. It won't last.
Yes. It comes and it goes, or you never receive it, or it comes with a bunch of issues.
Yeah, that too. I've had things show up in my life that I really wanted, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't actually satisfying or sustainable because it kind of had all those wrinkles to it. So you talk about detangling, and this is a thing I have in my phone I think you call it detangling, right? Don't you call
Yep,
it that?
yep,
Yeah.
detangling dense energy.
Yeah. So and my phone now, I have a reminder every morning just to like check in. Like you call them, I think you call it your daily check-ins with the
Yep, the energetic
detangling.
check-ins.
So you have a bunch of powerful questions that you ask to kind of help people kind of dive into what's going on inside of them. So where did you come up with these questions? Was this you just kind of doing your own process and then share it with everybody else, or does this come from your psychology background? How did that come to be?
You know, it's so funny. I always get questions. They're like, Mandy, who did you learn from? Who was your guru, your master? And I'm like, God, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
I did not to say that, of course, my subconscious isn't picking up things, which is why I remember sitting down with Jay Abraham years ago, and he's like, who's your competition? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not in competition with anybody in business. We're helping people. We're in the helping business. So I sat there and I was like, dang, I never thought about that. But I was like, I don't watch anybody else's stuff because I don't want to accidentally, take something. So everything kind of comes from what I perceive source or when I'm in a meditative state. All of my programs are the same. And again, I'm sure I'm picking things up in life as well, but there's nothing specific to that. And detangling was something where when I realized I would have an emotion or an experience or something felt just heavy. And I was like, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? Why doesn't this
Hmm.
feel good? Because that's what I was after is I want to feel at peace. I can feel at peace in many ways, but I do want to feel at peace. And I noticed that it felt like this like fishing line that was all tied up and I couldn't figure out where the tangle was. And when I was doing all that clinical work, I was like, there's always one root, or a very deep root at least, and then maybe there's a couple
Mm.
after, as to all of these symptomatic issues that come from it. So when someone would say, Mandy, I want to manifest money or my soulmate, I'm like, cool, let's talk about your dad. And they're like, what? I don't, why are we talking about my dad? And I'm like, because the roots are in the funniest of places. And so detangling dense energy was this idea of instead of our energy going outwardly into all directions, or my conscious mind saying, I want the beautiful life, I want the wonderful things, of course I do. But then my unconscious mind saying, scary, not going to happen, or it's evil, money's evil, or you can't have a soulmate because what if they leave you? All these crazy thoughts that come from the past. Well, our energy fractals off. Now it's being sent out into opposing directions, and so we're not getting what we want. But when we detangle the reasons in which we are not getting what we want, the reasons we are counter manifesting, the reasons our unconscious or our subconscious is protecting us, saying, no, don't do it, don't go there. Instead, we clear that clutter, we detangle that fishing line, and it's a straight shot to what we want.
Yeah, it's like taking your foot off the brake when you got your foot on the brake and the gas at the
Yeah,
same
hand
time.
off the e-brake.
When I was years ago, I went to Vipassana, those meditation retreats where you're like silent for 10
Yes,
days. You heard of
yes.
those?
I've never done
So
it,
I,
but very courageous of
it's
you.
it's fun, yeah. It's a different experience. So I did one for 10 days, and that was something that I saw. It was around day 6. I was sitting in a chair, looking out the window, just kind of like, just feeling very grateful for the tree just moving in the breeze. It was beautiful. Anyways, long story short, I started to see things. It was like looking under the hood of my car, of my life, and seeing how I had the foot on the brake and the gas, and this was leaking, and it was all these things that were becoming present because I was giving myself the time to slow down and cut out all that noise. And so I think that's super important to give yourself that time to be able to feel. So those daily check-ins with yourself is like a tune-up of the car every day, as opposed to, a big 10-day meditation of going like super deep, which are great. You could do those.
Yes.
But the daily stuff is the maintenance stuff that helps you avoid those big problems. And so you don't have those brakes blow when you're going down the highway kind of thing. So
Yeah, well, it's like
it's a
that
great practice.
burnout. Have you heard people talking about like the trauma burnout and burnout? I remember when I quit that
Mm.
job, this is something I didn't say. When I quit that job, I left that relationship and my life, flipped upside down. Again, it wasn't perfect, but I remember being like, I don't have any energy to go to the gym. And I used to be so avid, working out and all that stuff. And I was like, and I'm not even like being productive all day long. I had to do and do and do and just be, I perceived that I had to be this very specific version of me, which I learned from my mom and bless her heart for it. And all of a sudden I had no energy. And thank God for my husband, because he's sitting there and he's like, why are you judging yourself? And I was like, because I'm sitting here, I'm not making any money, I have no job, and I can't go to the gym even. I'm probably gonna die. Like, I don't know. I've obviously given up. So we're screwed here. And he said, Mandy, your energy is going towards healing so much trauma and so many things from your past, and it's rewiring. So just rest and let the energy go where it needs to go. And that allowed for me to go, I do. I just need to settle back, like rest and reflect. And that's okay to be in that space. And it was actually the most powerful space in which I built my new reality.
Awesome, Mandy. Awesome. Now, you and your husband, you guys have a business together. You have, I think it's called the Authentic Living Heartland. Is that, am I getting it right?
Well, that's a portion
The
of
retreat
it.
space?
Yes. So
Okay.
Authentic Living is our full, digital. We've got coaches, practitioners, digital programs, membership, all kinds of things. He's writing a
Okay.
book with Hay House. I wrote a book with Hay House. We're all kind of like, doing it. But then
Okay,
we also
cool.
have the Authentic Living Heartland, which is the retreat center we own also.
Oh, nice. Now, is that in Colorado as well?
Yes. That's what led us here, actually.
Oh, right. That's right. You said that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Whole
And so
other
what is that? Do you have horses there? Because I used to work on a show called Heartland. It was all about horses. So are there horses on the Authentic Living Heartland?
Yes, we do have horses, but they're not on the Heartland right now. I'll tell you what, like taking care
Okay.
of horses here in the winter when you've got feet and feet of snow. So I have an amazing friend who lives close by, and she's got like 20 horses. And so the girls, my horses, they go over there and hang out, and they're 4 minutes away. So we get to go pop
Nice.
over all the time.
Awesome. So what happens at the Authentic Living retreat space there? Is it just weekend retreats or is it month retreat? What happens in that facility?
So originally, and if I can tell you a little bit of the story of how it manifested itself. So we were in Laguna Beach, big, beautiful home, right on the water, like thinking, okay, we're good. Like we're just, life is peachy keen. And all of a sudden I just started feeling really unsatisfied. And I was like, I don't think we're supposed to stay in California, which is so weird because we loved Laguna in so many ways. And I started getting visions of chickens pecking the ground and lots of land and seeing, it kind of speaks to me that way, and seeing some of our clients, walking the land. And I was like, I think we're supposed to get a retreat center. And so we ended up looking in Hawaii, Ojai, and then the little tiny town of Dolores, Colorado, and thought Colorado, like it snows half the time. We won't even be able to do retreats, like Hawaii all the way. But as soon, we were like, let's just try. And so we ended up packing the kids up because COVID wasn't a COVID yet, but it was hitting. And so flights were getting canceled. We didn't know why. So we ended up packing the kids in the car, driving from Laguna Beach all the way to Southwest Colorado, had the most amazing family trip. And we got on the land. I think we walked through like 5 rooms. The realtor thought we were crazy. And we were like, we'll take it. This is where we're supposed to be. And so now, of course, the retreat center is primarily what we purchased it for was just my husband and I's events because we have so many of them. Now we're kind of getting pushed out of that space. Our coaches and practitioners are taking over for those events. And then we started opening the Heartland for extra folks who want to do retreats as well. But for the first 2 years,
Cool.
it was just all of our events. But it was crazy. It was very crazy. A lot going on.
Yeah, I love that. Now, so this is how you live your life, I'm assuming, is this process of just being in tune and being like, this feels right, move towards it. Or I'm having a vision, I'm feeling this way, go towards this. You talk about breadcrumbs and one step at a time, one little thing at a time. So can you talk about that sort of faith that's required to live your life in this sort of like in tune, following the breadcrumbs?
Yeah. So I remember talking to someone once, and they were like, I want all the steps, Mandy. Give me all the steps. What do I do? How do I get from here to there? And I'm like, sometimes there are steps, but for you, your whole lesson is not even about that or getting there. It's about you trusting yourself in that process. And so I said, I talked about breadcrumbs, and I was like, if you can follow the next illuminated step, you will end up where you're supposed to go, but you will also enjoy the journey. And it's this beautiful process. And she's like, how could I possibly do that? That's crazy. And I said, yeah. How's the other working out for you? And she's
Amen.
like, oh, right. Like my control, my need to micromanage my process to know every step isn't working either. So I call it the ABCs of manifesting. I'm like, our human mind wants to go all the steps. And we're usually going to perceive that the next step is something that it's not, because we're going from programming. We're going from what we saw someone else do. We're not going from like divine guidance and what our heart is saying. And that's where the faith comes in. But the universe, we'll call it the universe, and that's the faith piece, wants to go A, M, Z. You're there. You're already there. These quantum leaps into what you desire. But if we sit there and build all the steps out, then we can't take those breadcrumbs and we can't get there truly faster. We're bending time when we follow breadcrumbs and divine guidance.
Yeah, and there's things that your mind can't comprehend that can show up.
Yes.
That if you're going by the mind,
it's like it doesn't make sense. So you have to let go of that, which is really hard. Especially, I had struggled with that for a big portion of my life because it didn't make sense. It's like I want to figure it out. I want to know. I want to have control because I don't know what's coming. And that's where I feel like it's so important to trust and, like you said, surrender and have faith, because there is something far greater that maybe you can't even imagine. It's like you can't see how these pieces are going to come together.
Yeah, totally. If I look, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, there is no way that my little monkey brain 15 years ago could have even conceived that I would be where I am today. There's no
Yeah.
way. I would have, if I got to choose, I would have had, I don't know, a tenth of what I have today in my relationships, in my finances, in my,
Mm.
if that, I don't even know. But because I followed that divine guidance and I gave myself to that, and I'm willing, like we left a beautiful compound in Laguna Beach to come live in the country, and I'm hauling hay. But I was like, if God brought me here, I remember actually the day I was signing the documents for the Heartland. Um, and my mom called me. I love her so much. She goes, "Don't sign it. There's a weird virus. It's gonna wipe out." Like she's very, she's
Yeah.
being a very protective mom, we'll say. And I was sitting there, and I'm about to sign, and I was like, "Mom, God brought me here. God will see me through." And it was the most beautiful decision. And she's like, "I'm keeping my mouth shut from now on, Mandy." When she saw that happen. But it's true. Like, even though there might be moments of confusion when we surrender, or when we lean into just the next step, that's because you seen that meme where the guy is chiseling away he's looking for the diamond, and he stops like 2 inches
Yes.
before he gets the diamond. That's
Yep.
the same thing with the manifestation process. The universe will take you on twists and turns. It will show you what needs to be healed to maintain the manifestation. It will show you what needs to be understood. It's not there to sabotage you. It's not like
Yes.
even going in the wrong direction. It's what you do with those moments, though, that will move you through to the next beautiful expansion of your reality.
It's almost like manifesting is the universe's way of like helping us spiritually evolve, because as we start manifesting things,
Yes.
right? It's like the universe's school. It's like, hey, you get to come into this 3D reality, you get to manifest and create stuff, but the trade-off is you got to spiritually evolve. You got to grow and become more of who you are.
Yes.
And
Going
you'll
back
find
into
out who
oneness.
you truly. Yeah, amen. Yeah, it's great. So, one of my favorite takeaways from the 2-day weekend thing that I did virtually with you and your husband there was vibration is I think you said the ultimate protection.
Mm.
So, can you talk about raising your vibration and that being the ultimate protection,
Yes.
being aligned in that sense
Yes.
to protect yourself?
So I remember I very much perceived that I needed to protect myself from negative people, from negative energies, from, as a kid, I was extremely afraid of like evil energy. I would sleep with the lights on. So density was something that I was very uncomfortable with for a long time. And so I always perceived I needed to protect myself from it. And we talk about, like, you hear spiritual people say, cut energetic cords and all that. And there was a time where that was wonderful and very helpful. And It's noticed, though, that as you vibrationally rise into different levels of consciousness, I hate saying higher, but different levels of consciousness, it's not needed. It's like your vibration is this filter, this transmutation process. So I imagine it like, my husband says this, and I love this analogy. If you're in an airplane and someone tries to throw a rock at you, you don't even know that they tried to throw a rock at you, right? But if you're on a bike and someone throws a rock at you, they're probably going to knock you off the bike. So which one do you do? Do you try to go faster on the bike and play the same game? Or do you go so high that you're unreachable? And so whether that's with people or our own thoughts and scenarios, when we are vibrating in a really high space, we can literally transmute or simply not feel the density that exists in those lower vibratory levels, like fear or scarcity or, all that stuff, because we're so out of resonance with it that it simply doesn't exist. And so when people are like, I need to protect myself from the world and from what's going on and all this, and I'm like, you just need to go higher, just evolve and expand greater, and it really takes care of itself.
Now, how do you help people discern the difference between vibrating higher and it going into like a spiritual ego thing where they're just like, oh, I'm going to vibrate above this, and this does, and they
Yes.
become like,
Escapism.
yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, escapism.
Totally. And I've seen this so much. And I want to be careful how I say this. I have nothing against ayahuasca. I've never done it. But I know some people who would be like, I am this spiritually evolved person. I did ayahuasca, and we're doing another one tomorrow, and then we're going to do another one after that. And I'm like, that's escapism, my love. That's not trying to access higher levels of consciousness. You are a human for a reason, and there are some human things that we need to deal with, and that's a part of our evolution. We're not running from it. So I always say, are you escaping? Is this something you're supposed to move through and understand, or are you avoiding it? And I think when people go into like energy work, especially, or the high vibratory, all that, they're like, I'm above it. You can feel when someone hasn't done the work. You can feel when someone tried to jump vibrationally, but they don't know how to sustain and they didn't build a foundation beneath them,
Yeah. Exactly. So what is the process of building that foundation to raise your vibration where you can avoid those lower level rock throwing energies at you?
Yes. So buy the book. Just kidding. So a piece.
There you go. There's the commercial. Buy the book.
That's it right there. I'll give a snippet at least, because I will say, and this is something that I love that my friends in this, kind of world with me are like, thank goodness someone's talking about this correctly, that it's not just wave a magic wand when it comes to manifestation. You got to do the work. And so a piece of that work, and one of the biggest things that's been profound for me, is the trigger management. And that's, of course, a whole chapter in there, is how can I manage my psychological triggers? The things that basically pull my consciousness into a direction that I do not want. Because whenever we are pouring our consciousness into something, it's because it is bringing out an emotion in us. And emotions are one of the first units of consciousness. So in the sense of, if someone can make me angry, guess where all of my thought frequency just went? To that reality, to that person, to that anger. And because if someone so chooses to believe, our consciousness, where our thought energy goes, builds our reality. And so when we realize the unconscious conversation we're having with the universe and where we're lending our energy into the things we do not want, and that unconscious transference stops happening, where we stop saying yes and we say, that's not where my energy goes, that's not where my consciousness goes, I'm triggered, no, I'm not triggered anymore, because you've desensitized it. You've done the work to understand the trigger. It's transmuted, hasn't been avoided, but it's been transmuted and healed. That builds almost like a step into your process of becoming, you can call it a master manifestor, whatever, goes right to someone, but understanding yourself. And so I always say manifestation is self-mastery. When you know yourself, when you know how you interact with the environment, when you know what sets you off, when you know what moves you, and you can dictate that from an empowered state instead of you're a victim, or you're not understanding how you need to rope back your energy and bring it back to center. Oh, self-mastery will change the whole game.
Yeah. And it's not about jumping up and down and just like, I feel good, I feel good, I feel good, I feel good. Yeah, no, there's inner work to be done. It's got to be, because that's the foundation. Yeah.
If we lie to ourselves, I always say this. I'm like, if I lie to myself, like, let's say that someone comes to me and they're like, they're just, for the simplistic reasons, we'll talk about money. And they're like, I am completely broke. If I said, okay, now go look in the mirror and say, I'm a billionaire. Oh my gosh. What a terrible thing to do, because they're going to look at themselves and somewhere in them, they're going to go, this is a complete lie. It is out of my realm of possibility. And they will actually push themselves further from that reality. So instead, I'd be like, what feels right to you? And let's just say for some reason, they're like, I could say that by next year, I'll be making $50,000. Maybe that's enough for them. I don't know, whatever. Cool. Let's talk about that then. Let's build that reality. And that becomes the next stepping stone. And then we re-break the rule. And then we re-break until we get to this point of, yes, we are in pure possibility. And yes, you can be whatever you want to be and experience whatever you want. But this is not toxic positivity or fake it till you make it, because I just don't like that at all.
Because it doesn't work.
Amen.
So talk to me, Mandy, about I call it your golden ticket. It's the moment in your life where you're like, this is why I do what I do. This is where it touches your heart and you're like, it's like, it doesn't matter all the money, everything else doesn't matter. It's just, this is why I do what I do. What is that moment for you?
You're going to make me cry. It touches me that much. It is when I'm able to see someone go from debilitated and the perception of them not being able to heal or have a beautiful life or love themselves or, enter the blank. And that moment that you see, like you could see it in them. That's why I still love to do events, even though it's hard for me just because of my schedule. Being able to watch someone and feel their energy shift. It's like a cellular shift, and they're never the same again. And they go from, I'm unlovable, to I love myself, or what we hear a lot, I don't want to kill myself anymore, or whatever it is. And you know that you played whatever role you were supposed to, and you see someone go on to live a beautiful life and help the world, because that's always what I'm like selfishly, I'm like, you're gonna go pay it forward, right? Just seeing that in them, there's nothing like it, because I see a version of me that was in so much pain, and it's like I could do this alone and I could actually, continue my life in some ways, although I'm wired as a helper. But when you get to bring humanity, or as much of humanity as you can with you, there's nothing like it. It's just, it just makes me feel so close to God, and I feel like I'm doing the right thing and can put my head on a pillow every night, and it's just beautiful.
I agree. I don't have the same experience that you have in the work that you do, but that is the same golden ticket for me, is to be able to do something. I've been an actor for a while, and now I'm doing podcasting and writing and such. And, I get little messages from people saying things like that.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I don't care about anything else. Like, just to be of service in a way that brings people back to the wonder and beauty inside of them. Because I had, a similar sort of mayhem in my younger years, and wanting to end my life and not wanting to be here, and then to have it turn around and be blessed the way I am. It's like, it's the most, I can't think of any better gift to be brought back to the wonder and beauty of your own soul and your own being and the sacredness of your own life.
Yeah.
And so I resonate with you, Mandy, on that one, because it's fantastic. It's a beautiful feeling. So,
yeah.
I got one more question for you, Mandy. I ask all my guests. It's a fun question I came up with while I was filming on set one day. We were bored. We were waiting for the lights to get set up, and I was like, I just came up with this question. So it's just kind of a fun one, and it goes like this: if Mandy Morris had on her wall a magic painting, and any time she looked at this painting, she could feel any type of feeling she wanted to feel, to whatever degree that she wanted to feel it, what feeling would you choose? And what would your painting look like? What kind of colors or shapes would you have on it?
This is a good one. So this reminds me of when my husband and I were sitting in Laguna Beach a couple years ago, and I asked him, how would you know if you got to the end of your life that you had, you did right, that you feel good, about what you did with your life? And he had all these different answers, and I'd help these people and I'd do these things, whatever it was. And he's like, what about you? And I was like, that I would feel God's presence in everything I did. And I know, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, if I could feel God's presence, no matter, I could be at the grocery store, but if I felt that connectedness in all things, I would know that I did what I was supposed to do, whether I did nothing or I did everything. It wouldn't be a doingness. I would just feel close to God, or, creator, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So with that picture, I that's the first feeling, would be this incredible, deep connection to source, and like the knowingness that comes from that. You just feel like this like wise, gentle, loving, peaceful person, when that's what I feel when I'm, connected in that way. And it's a moving painting. So it's not a painting. It's like, alive, and it's something you can step into. And
oh, damn. Whoa.
we're going.
I love it. Okay.
And,
yeah.
and I see like a kind of like a big willow tree on this like grassy, like luscious grass. The grass doesn't even have to be green. And this big, beautiful tree, and the tree is alive, and it like talks to you and like hugs you and touches you. And then it's got this like beautiful water. Maybe the water's like purple and teal and blue. And there's all of these like creatures that you've never seen on planet Earth, and they're in the water. And it's all this like moving thing, but you can step into it anytime you want. Maybe it's heaven. I don't know. Heaven.
It's like Avatar, it sounds like.
Right? There my subconscious goes. It's like, let's just build something that we saw somewhere.
That's awesome, Andy. So talk to me about this feeling. So you said it's a presence of feeling God's presence in everything that you do.
Yeah.
So if someone has never felt God's presence before, how would you explain that to them? How would you say that feels in your body?
So I actually had someone a couple weeks ago there at the Heartland, and she was like, I grew up really religious, and she's like, but she turned away from, the church life, but she felt like she lost God in that moment too. And she's like, I don't feel connected to God anymore, and it's scaring me, and all this stuff. So we talked and talked and talked. The root of it, and I would say this would be my answer, is, when's the last time you connected with yourself? So she wasn't feeling disconnected from God. She was feeling so disconnected to her essence, to her soul, to her, I call it the authentic self, that all things get disconnected from there. And so I think that the starting point, if someone's like, I've never felt God, or, if I talk to like an atheist and so forth, I'm like, it takes an incredible amount of a lack of connection to self to never feel God, but it is very normal to not feel God all the time, especially when there's so many perceptions and definitions of what God is anyways, that we're not leaning in to figure out what it feels like, for us. I know this has turned into like a God talk,
No.
but
Yeah.
it's connection to self, like although I'd always felt God, it felt outside of me for a long time. And that was okay because I needed a friend. But when I brought it inwards, I became who I was for myself and for the world. And it was such a different relationship. So I think sometimes when we heal, just through the process of healing our ish and understanding ourselves better and mastering ourselves, sometimes we just find our version of God.
And that sense of connectedness to yourself, is it a peace? Is it a groundedness? What words would you use to describe that connectedness to self?
It's like all things. I call it the is. It's like everything exists there and nothing exists there. There's no love, there's no hate, there's no sadness, there's no happiness, there's no dark, there's no light, there's no anything, and there's everything. And all of it is just this swirl of energy, and it feels so good because you finally actually know. Because we're in this process of discovery as humans. But when you're tapped into source, you're not learning, And then it's not even that you know nothing. You know that you know all, and there is nothing to know. That's the best way I can say it.
Paradoxical.
There's no human.
Awesome, Mandy. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I love the magic painting too. No one's ever said that they wanted to step into their painting. So you've branched this question into a new realm of reality. I love that. Thank you so much, Mandy, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. The 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting. You can pick that up now. Is there anything else, Mandy, that you wanted to share with everybody before we end the podcast here?
Just the reminder, as silly as it sounds, that there is someone on the planet somewhere that is always loving you and wishing you well.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Mandy.
having me.
All the best.
Well, that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me for another one of my podcast episodes. I really, really enjoyed this one, and I got a lot out of it, and I hope you did too. I want to say thank you to Kerry James for helping me with the show, for producing it, for making the magic happen. Thank you, sir. And Eskimotion for producing the music in Dreams that I use for my intro and the outro of my podcast. I love it. And thank you to Eskimotion for providing that music for this show. If you want to find more about Mandy Morris and her work, you can look in the show notes or the description below this video and get all her links and find out about her latest book, The 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting. I want to also let you know that my next episode is with Amber Marshall. So I got to interview her again and have some fun with her. So look forward for that, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.